Healing was the warm-up. This is the main fucking event. Welcome to Go Regulate Yourself, the unapologetic, unfiltered love letter you didn't know you needed. This is where mental health meets real life, where growth gets gritty, and where we stop pretending healing makes us saints. Think of it like therapy with tequila shots and a side of tough love. In this space, we're learning how to take responsibility for our shit, face the chaos of life, and become the best version of who we are. So if you're ready for your weekly "what the fuck am I doing" moment, let's dive in. Hey Reg Babes, welcome back to another episode on the Go Regulate Yourself podcast. My name is Brianne and I am your host, and I am so excited to jump into today's topic with you. I recently read a Substack article that has me vibing on a really internal level, finding some deep grace for myself, and really just feeling very content with the direction that I'm headed in life and what I'm currently choosing to do differently for myself than I ever have before. And I thought, what a great topic to bring to the podcast today and chat with you guys about, because I do think it's going to stir some things up, hopefully help you find some grace in your own way, but also give yourself a little kick in the booty to move forward and maybe do something a little bit differently than perhaps you have your entire life. So without further ado, let's dive on in. I personally have been on Substack for a couple of months now. And if you recall, if you've been here for a while, back in 2025, I announced that I was leaving the coaching industry, hanging up my coaching title for good. And I didn't know what was really coming next, but I knew that moving towards writing and podcasting full time was something that was really weighing heavily on my heart in such a good way. And ultimately spent the next 6 months after that trying to create that for myself and figure out what my identity was going to be and how I was going to create this world. And so I stumbled into Substack feeling like super confident and excited at the beginning of the year. And I rolled out a couple of publications and felt like I hit the ground running, and I was very excited and like ready to like dive all in. And it turns out like my heart was very invested in this whole thing, but my head perhaps not so much. And what really ended up happening was I got thrown into this space of like an ego freak out. You know what I'm talking about? You've probably experienced this too, where you want to do something different. Maybe it's switching careers, or it's starting a business, or it's leaving a relationship, or saying no to a friend group, or putting yourself out there, or whatever it might look like. And the moment that you've got the idea and you're really excited about it and you're ready to move forward with that plan, suddenly something shifts and changes. And you start to feel freaked out by this new possibility or opportunity. And suddenly a whole wave of negativity kind of rolls over you. And you start seeing all the problems, right? Instead of the solutions, we're seeing all the problems, all the things that can go wrong. And what if this happens? And who's going to say this? And who's going to talk about me? Or what are they going to say? Or what are they going to think? So on and so forth. And this, my friends, is that normal part of being a human, that normal part of healing and growth that occurs when we start to step outside of our comfort zone. When we start to take a tiptoe, a full step, or even in some cases, a whole fucking jump, a long jump outside of that comfort zone, suddenly our ego, the part of our brains that's meant to keep us safe, freaks the fuck out because it has no idea what's coming next. And it wants to do everything within its power to drag you back to that comfort zone and keep you where it knows it's safe, where it knows what to expect, where things are familiar and cushy and comfortable. And so you've likely experienced this in many different ways in your life. And this for me was very much the introduction into the writing space. I had put myself out there. I'd started the Substack. I put some writing out there for people to see, and it felt so fucking good. Like, I know this is meant for me. I know this is right. It felt so good on a deep soul level in so many ways. And yet at the exact same time, I'm experiencing polar opposite feelings of sadness and grief and fear and frustration and all of these things flooding in that are making me hesitate and question what exactly it is that I'm doing, making me question if I am taking the right steps and doing the right things with my career or my life or my identity. And so I really had to, for the last couple of months, slow down and sit in this space. Slow down and sit in this space of being uncomfortable, of being in the sticky parts, the messy parts, the parts that feel wrong, and give myself a lot of grace for that because I full fledged felt like an imposter. Full fledged felt like a fraud. I had my ego screaming at me, "Who the fuck do you think you are? What do you think you're going to provide to this world in terms of advice or guidance or information or relatable life, situations? What do you really think you're going to be able to give within this space?" And old Brian, Brian before healing, Brian before this conscious journey would have allowed that voice to really to really stifle her, to really quiet her down, to really make her question the choices that she was making. I would have 100% probably walked away from, I know what a contradiction that is. 100% probably. Most likely would have walked away from this thing that I am creating. I would have totally judged myself for all of it. And now, being on the other side, I can see what's happening to me in the moment that it's happening, but it still didn't prevent me from really being quiet. It didn't prevent me from, quote unquote, making a mistake because I didn't show up on the Substack publication for well over a month. I didn't write anything because I was in this space of like, I have so much to say, so much to share, but yet I can't get the words to come out onto paper because of this freeze state that I'm entering into. And so, even though I was aware consciously of what was happening and able to process it in quicker time than I probably ever could have done before in my life, I still had an implication or a consequence happen because of that. And so my recent Substack publication that I just put out in the 30 something Bible was all about this, sharing about, this experience and what's coming up for me and kind of some of the rules I've rewritten for myself within the space of allowing my content to be like created around my life, which is traveling right now, and not necessarily be curated or on a particular schedule or writing what people say I should write about or thinking about what I should write about, rather just sharing from the heart and things that are important to me. So I was sharing all of that and being on the Substack publication. I've actually really blown up this month, which is fantastic. I've had an incredible amount of subscribers come in, which I am so excited about. And it's really given me a confidence boost, even when I'm not fully out there putting tons of written material out into the world, I'm still growing in a really massive way. So that definitely, it helped and it didn't help because it also kind of contributed to the freeze a bit, me freaking out that there was even more people entering my space and I hadn't, created anything for them to read. So there was a little bit of a good and bad to that. But needless to say, I've been in the space, I've been in the app for Substack, and I've been reading a lot of written work from other writers and authors that are out there. And I just stumbled upon a publication from another woman. Her name is Natalie Realta. And she had an article up about perfectionism. And in her article, she was talking about how perfectionism can really hold us back in life and how she personally was looking to move beyond perfectionism and do things before they're ready or before they feel acceptable and just kind of, go in and do it. And as I was reading through this, it just really resonated in my heart what she was saying, because I think for most of my life, in fact, I know for most of my life, I have struggled with perfectionism to such a deep degree. I really let it hold me back in so many areas of my life because I never wanted people to see the mistakes that I could make or that I thought I was making. I wanted the world to view me as this perfect human being that never made a mistake, never did anything wrong, was never judged, never criticized. I wanted to be liked by everybody, which is a really weird thing for me to say and admit out loud at this point in my life because I have fully moved into embracing what I'll call my villainess era for this year, where I really don't care what people think of me. And we're going to get into why that is now. But I'm in this space of like embracing the Scorpio-ness of me, which being a Scorpio, you really do have a dark side. You have this side of you that's like, man, I have a really huge heart and I really love people, but also like fuck all the people in the world. I hate them all. There's kind of like this big division in your energy. And that is very much something that I am learning to come to terms with. So it's very weird for me as I am in this space of this new identity and honoring so much of this for myself that I'm like admitting the fact that I was obsessed with people liking me and wanting to be liked by everybody. It's very, very weird. So if I step back to like childhood and I look at this for a really brief moment, I, like so many of us, especially us as women, had a period of my life where I was very much conditioned and programmed to believe that girls should be seen and not heard. Children should be seen and not heard. We should not be voicing our opinion. We should not be speaking up. We should be looking to please everybody outside of ourselves before we please ourselves. And so, from a very early age, I tried so hard to make other people happy. I was like your chronic people pleaser. And in this space, one of the things that I recognized was if I do things well and I do things for other people, I ultimately get praise. I get love and affection. I get all of the things that I desire. When I am a quote unquote good girl, when I am perfect, when I am checking the boxes that people expect me to check, I am getting the things that I most desperately want in this lifetime. But if I slip up, if I speak out of turn, if I show my emotions, if I do anything that might upset somebody else, quote unquote, a mistake, then I am ultimately going to be reprimanded. There's going to be a consequence. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. And obviously, I'm going to make other people unhappy. So I can't do that. And when I kind of peel the layer back a little bit further, I can also recognize that in terms of the things that I was creating, in terms of like schoolwork or hobbies or things that I was doing on the side, anytime that I would create something and release it out only when it was absolutely perfect, I felt like I would get a lot of praise. But if I released something and there was mistakes, then somebody would correct, "Oh, you got a grammatical error here that you need to fix," or "This sentence doesn't make sense," or "This is the wrong photo," or whatever it might be. And so I started to really attach to those micro moments, those micro problems, and make it a really big thing. If somebody would point out a mistake that I made, it was like the whole fucking world was ending. And I really created this deep fear of upsetting people. And I never really realized how deeply connected people pleasing was to the perfectionism traits that I held, but it is true. It's not, and I guess too, it's not honestly just about pleasing other people, but in a selfish way, it's kind of like I also, like, wanted people to really love me. I wanted people to see me as this incredible human being. And, that maybe sounds vain and everything else, but it truly was an twined wound that was held so deeply within me is that I just wanted to be loved and accepted, and I thought the only way to be loved and accepted was to be perfect. And so perfectionism and people pleasing were something that was really intertwined together. And I learned to be a perfectionist because I was such a people pleaser. Fast forward to later on in life, as I moved into like high school years and then eventually into university, I really attached perfectionism to procrastination. And I think this is where a lot of us get tripped up because we call ourselves a perfectionist. But really, are we a perfectionist or are we the world's greatest procrastinator? Because we might be saying that we're only releasing things out into the world until they're, when they're perfect. But really, what we're doing is we're procrastinating. We're procrastinating doing a lot of our work. We're not doing things on time, not following a schedule, causing other problems for ourselves because we delay, 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 and push things until the absolute end when suddenly there becomes a problem. So now I'm seeing three different energies kind of intertwined here of perfectionism, people pleasing, and procrastination, the three P's. And I'm actually noticing how much of a trait this has played within my entire life, and perhaps it's played a humongous trait for you within your own life too. So when I look at where I'm at today and what I'm kind of noticing with this writing space, I can recognize these three things being present. First of all, I have that people pleasing tendency still sneakily coming in a minuscule way, but regardless, is still present. Where I want people to like what I'm putting out into the world. I want people to enjoy it. I want people to get something out of it. And perhaps in a way, over the last few months, I have delayed myself, procrastinated myself from creating any content because I really am aiming to please other people before I'm aiming to please myself. And that's a huge reality check for me. It feels really uncomfortable to admit that out loud because it's like in my brain, it's like, Brian, you are already through this. You've already been working on these wounds for such a long time. You shouldn't be admitting to people that this is still something you're struggling with. And at the end of the day, the truth is that I am. And I don't know if I'm ever not going to struggle with this in some way. It's always forever going to be present. I truly do believe the things that we're working through in this lifetime, we're going to continue going down that spiral to find a new level to this wound that we hold and a new way to look at it and be able to do good with it moving forward. So for me, I can definitely recognize maybe there is still some people pleasing tendencies that are present for me here that I am looking at a little bit differently right now in this moment. I also know that perfectionism was a huge thing. Again, that imposter syndrome of like, what could you possibly have to create? Nobody's going to want to read what you put out there. My brain went, oh my God, if whatever I put out there has to be fucking perfect and magical because if it's not, well, I'm gonna be judged, I'm gonna be criticized, people are gonna have harsh things to say, and I don't want them to recognize how much of a mistake I am, how much of a walking red fucking flag I am, how much I fumble or I screw up or I'm like really struggling to get through this fucking thing called life. I don't want people to see that. There's a part of my brain that wants people to still see me as this perfect human being so that I can't be judged. And that is hilariously embarrassing to admit out loud for me to sit here and say like I am worried about my opinions, I'm worried about every single thing that I put out there, whether it's a note on Substack or it's a thread or it's an Instagram post or it's an actual article or a podcast episode. I'm terrified about what the fuck you will think. And that's in like such a deep part of my soul because I've been really working on again this villainess era of like not giving a fuck what other people think. But again, as I learn to embody this part of my identity and learn how to not give a fuck, I still have lots of fucks I'm giving. I'm still learning about the fucks that are coming up and learning how to not give a fuck. And so I think there's like this understanding that a lot of us have when we're working on things, we're working on letting go of limiting beliefs or healing old wounds or shedding fears, that we think that once we decide, it's just going to be dealt with and done, and then we no longer struggle with it again. But I truly do think that's a load of bullshit because it is something that's going to continue to come up for us. And in a new way, we have to be comfortable with sitting in it and allowing ourselves to still struggle with these things again and again and again as we learn where it is attached to different parts of our life and different parts of our personality, and slowly but surely continue to shed those layers as we move forward. I can promise you I definitely do not give as many fucks as I used to give, but I would absolutely be lying to you if I said that there was 100% no fucks to give. I want that to be my identity. I want there to be absolutely no fucks to give and nobody's opinion to matter but my own. But the fact of the matter is, I'm still working through this as we all are. And it's something that we have to acknowledge for ourselves as we continue to move forward. And so when I was reading this article again, just about perfectionism and again about this kind of showing up for us, I thought, what an interesting thing for us to look at and kind of use to positively analyze our life in a little bit of way. Of course, we don't want to overanalyze. We don't want to continue going down the spiral of being like, oh, I'm so broken. I have all these problems to fix because truthfully, we don't. We're not broken. We're human beings. We're coming here with a boatload of fucking baggage and we're learning how to deal with it. And eventually, the goal is moving forward is to have life feel a little bit easier, be able to take a little bit of a deeper breath, and things feel better to experience joy and happiness and peace and freedom and all the fucking things. But at the end of the day, we are coming with a boatload of baggage, and we have to understand that it's going to take some time to peel these layers back. And so when I look at all areas of my life, like I said, perfectionism doesn't just apply to like the content that I'm creating or to the things that I'm putting out into the world, whether it was like when I had a typical job and you had like certain assignments that you had to submit or do, or I was in school and I had to submit projects or do exams, or if I had to do something for somebody else, I had this deep, like, perfectionism within all that. Well, it also spills over into other areas of my life, like in how I show up in my relationships. I've always wanted to be that perfect wife, that perfect friend, that perfect person. And the reality of it is, when I look at my life right now, like, my husband and I, of course, going strong, but there's definitely moments when I'm like a toxic motherfucker in our relationship. And I have to thank the Lord every single day that my husband is still with me because I get triggered as fuck sometimes and can really be a toxic partner. And so I can recognize how it shows up there. In reality of it, when it comes to like friendships, I have an extremely small circle that is continuing to dwindle down every single day. And that is because I am recognizing what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do in relationships moving forward. And that potentially could mean that my circle only has a handful of people in it. And I have to get comfortable with that. And then even when I look at other areas of my life, like family, like I'm disowned from my mother. So I definitely wasn't a perfectionist or people pleaser continuing on in that relationship because that relationship ended and there's a massive disconnect there between us. So, I mean, really, when it comes to the energies of how this shows up for us, we're talking about every area of our life. We're not just talking about the creation of something, but ultimately how we're allowing this view of wanting to be perfect, wanting to be seen as a human being that makes no mistakes, how much this is actually impeding us and holding us back in life, holding us back from making the right choices for ourselves. I mean, if I was still deeply connected and tied into that perfectionism energy, I would still be in a very controlled relationship with my mom, and what I mean is, like, I would still be very much controlled and manipulated by her in that relationship. I never would have gotten together with my husband because I would have been so afraid of upsetting other people in my life, like my family, etcetera, who had a lot of opinions to say when I got together with my husband. I would still be in friend groups or have my nursing license and be working a career I hate because I would have been so obsessed with pleasing other people and leading a perfect life according to other people's definitions that did not result in mistakes or other things being present. And thinking about my life from that lens, it gives me the ick, like, to such a deep level to think about how held back I could have been, how masked, how numb, how disassociated I could have been from truly who I wanted to be, who I am in my life, or what I actually wanted. There could have been a lot that held me back if I would have continued to beat the drum of perfectionism. And so for anybody who might find themselves in this space, If perfectionism is a thing for you that's currently coming up and you're wondering, like, how do I get past this? How do I stop beating that drum of perfectionism? I mean, again, it's not going to be something like you decide for yourself today and then you wake up tomorrow and suddenly it's not a problem anymore. This is going to be something that you have to work at continually. And for a lot of us, when we're talking about making those changes and doing that work, starting small is sometimes the best thing that you can possibly do for yourself. And so when I say start small, I don't mean that you go and quit your career and leave those relationships and disown everybody tomorrow. I mean, that's going to probably send your nervous system into fucking shock. And I mean, if that's what you want to do and that's, how you've done things before and it's worked for you, I mean, all the power to you. But most of us, that's going to freak us out so deeply. So deeply. Our ego will be thrown into a complete fucking tizzy if we choose to do that. So, what works is starting small. What works is starting to choose things that you are going to leave undone, that are you're just going to decide are acceptable even before they're finished or even before they're quote unquote perfect. You're going to allow yourself to make mistakes. So, an easy way that I'm doing this is that I'm writing. I'm choosing to pop into that keyboard, type out what I'm feeling, hop on here and record a podcast episode, put out a social post, etc., without needing it to be perfect, without needing it to be curated, without needing it to be something that I'm like, oh my God, finally I've created this perfect thing. I've triple checked it. All the spelling is correct. All the grammar is correct, etc. Nope. I'm just fucking putting it out into the world the moment that it's done. And this allows me the space of moving beyond perfectionism, moving beyond people pleasing, moving into that space of allowing myself to be a human being, of allowing myself to make the mistakes. And so the same thing could be for you. I mean, back when I used to be a coach, one of the things that I used to coach on, ironically enough, hilariously enough, was in the space of perfectionism. And when somebody was really struggling with this, one of the things that I would encourage is like leaving things undone. So, like, if you're doing dishes in the kitchen, leave one fork dirty in the sink. If you're doing your hair and you're curling it, leave one piece not perfectly curled. There's ways that we can start to do this in such a small, minuscule way that might feel life shattering and super fucking uncomfortable in the moment, but it's not gonna be as uncomfortable as the exhaustion of trying to be perfect and not make mistakes all the time. It's going to be more manageable for you. It's gonna be better for you in so many aspects by you getting through this initial uncomfy period. And so, something fun to do might be to sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and just write out things that you can start experimenting with that maybe perfectionism is really running the show for you right now. Ways that you can experiment being imperfect, being a human being, making mistakes, doing all of the stuff within that. And of course, in a safe way, as long as it's not causing you or anybody else harm, but allow yourself to play with this. Allow yourself to be messy and chaotic and all of the things that actually make you you. And trust me when I say you're going to get to a place where you can actually take a deep fucking breath and it feels good because you're not carrying all the weight of these expectations around. You're not carrying all this fear about what everybody else is going to think. And really honestly, the biggest crash for me, the thing that changed me and seeing this so differently from a different light was really when my company crashed. And I look back on those years when I was trying to build this big thing and hire all these people in. I hired the huge team and opened all of these clinic spaces because of the fear of what people would think. Because didn't want to disappoint anybody that they weren't hired onto the team, or because I didn't want them to have to work from home because, like, what, their boss can't afford to open a clinic space. I wanted to add on all these modalities and all these things that other people wanted me to add into the business because they all thought it was a good idea. I ignored my gut and I listened to everybody else and I tried so hard to not make mistakes that literally at the end of the day, all I ended up making was mistakes. I ended up making catastrophic mistakes that led to the collapse of the company. It led to the hurt of a lot of people. It led to a bankruptcy and a deep depression state for myself. It led to so many problems because I was trying so hard to please everybody else, trying so hard to be the person that didn't make a mistake. And you know what happens when we try so desperately to not make mistakes outside of making mistakes? We end up having to fudge things or cover up things or be more dishonest because we're trying to be seen in a particular way from a particular light. And now we're creating a whole slew of problems that come alongside of that. So, perfectionism really can ruin us in a really big way. It really can hold us back. And like I said, as embarrassing as it is for me to admit, this is something that I'm still struggling with, even now, having moved past all of this stuff and being in a completely different zone and really with life looking pretty fucking good right now. It still is something that's coming up, and I'm meeting it head on. I'm refusing to ignore it. I'm refusing to let it run the show moving forward. And this is exactly what I'm doing differently. I'm allowing myself to show up in the midst of it, in the mistakes, and let people see me as the messy fucking human being that I am, because I am a messy human being, as we all are, and it's okay. And so at the end of the day, I want to encourage you, take a look at your life, look at where people pleasing, look at where perfectionism, look at where procrastination are showing up, because I guarantee you, you're going to actually find a tie between all three of these things and might just be a symbol for you to perhaps make some changes and do something a little bit differently within that space. So that's a little Wednesday wisdom for you. I am so happy to be connecting with you. I'm so excited that I'm finding little places and pockets of time and traveling to be able to record and share some of the things that are coming through on my heart and in my mind. And yeah, I really love you being within this space, and I appreciate you listening to these episodes. And I hope that you're getting something really fucking delicious out of it. Now, as a quick reminder before we log off, I have started a community for the podcast called Reg Babes After Dark. And if you have not listened to one of the previous episodes about me being a guinea pig for you, I'm going to encourage you to go and listen to that episode. I am currently in the process of going through some incredible sessions with amazing experts in all different areas of trauma recovery and healing modalities, spirituality, etc. And I am literally live trialing these sessions from practitioners. We're recording the whole thing, whether it's a 30 up to a 90-minute session. And I am sharing the full unedited sessions with you within this podcast community so that you can have an opportunity to see what are some of the healing modalities that are available to you, how do they work, what do they look like in real life and in action, and be able to determine before you spend any money or any of your time on any of these treatments to know what you're getting yourself into and if it's worth it or if it's going to work for you. So if you're curious about learning more about that or any of the other benefits that come with the Reg Babes After Dark community, I'm going to encourage you to pop over to the show notes below and check that out. There is a free space within that membership that you can get a whole boatload of other benefits from. These sessions, unfortunately, are not included in the free space, but you can still get some really cool things if you pop over to that community and sign up to get the weekly drops and resources and things that are coming into that space. So I am wishing you a fabulous rest of your Wednesday. I cannot wait to hear what you think of this episode, and I will catch you very soon. Remember to go regulate yourself. Mwah. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Go Regulate Yourself podcast. If you felt called out in the best way, I would be so honored if you drop below and leave a review or share this with a friend who needs to hear it too. And remember, regulate yourself before you wreck yourself. I'll catch you in the next episode. Mwah.